Delhi, our national capital, votes on 25th of May. And the one question being hotly debated in the Supreme Court is whether its Chief Minister will be in jail when the voting takes place. The Supreme Court has now on 2 occasions expressed an inclination to set Arvind Kejriwal free on bail, but the government of India is ferociously opposing it. In the court, ED's lawyers have said the heavens won't fall if Arvind Kejriwal doesn't campaign in the ongoing elections. By the end of the day today, there were heated arguments, but there was no relief for Arvind Kejriwal, but there was some hope. The Supreme Court said it will hear the matter on Thursday and decide. 2 dates to remember here: 25th of May is when Delhi votes, and on 23rd is when the Supreme Court goes on summer vacation. So whatever the Supreme Court does, it'll have to do before that. The Supreme Court, however, has made it very clear that if Mr. Kejriwal is given bail, then he cannot step out and start signing files, etc. Essentially, if the Supreme Court gives him bail on Thursday, he will have to behave like a neta who is campaigning for his party, but not as a chief minister, because the court says that will be a conflict of interest. The top court has also said that this is an extraordinary situation and that the Delhi chief minister isn't a habitual offender. Since the Lok Sabha elections happen once in 5 years, the court has to think hard whether Kejriwal should be released on bail or not. In fact, the Apex Court today also cited George Fernandez's election from jail and said he had won by a huge margin of votes, essentially saying that if George can, so can Kejriwal. But the Enforcement Directorate opposed the court's sentiment tooth and nail and repeatedly said that this VIP entitlement will set a wrong precedent and will send a wrong message to the common man. It said, and I quote, "Heavens will not fall if Arvind Kejriwal does not campaign in these elections." As the ED was objecting, it faced some very tough questions from the Supreme Court. First question the Supreme Court asked: why did it take you 2 years to act against Arvind Kejriwal? Second tough question. The court asked, it has been more than 365 days and there has been no recovery. The Supreme Court also said that it is not concerned with politics, but the evidence that the agency has against the jailed Delhi chief minister. The probe agency said that when the investigation in the matter began, the focus was actually not on Mr. Kejriwal. His role only became clearer when the probe progressed. To which the court said that the matter is important as it is looking at the situation and not at Mr. Kejriwal's stature. But the big point here is that the court has asked the AAP convener to be a neta and not a chief minister if he is granted bail. Calling the case extraordinary, the Supreme Court bench said if Kejriwal is given interim bail, he will not be allowed to perform official duties. To that, the Delhi chief minister informed the court that he will not sign any files. However, the Delhi LG shouldn't reject decisions because these files are not signed by him. As an aside, a Delhi court has extended Mr. Kejriwal's judicial custody till May 20th. The Delhi chief minister has now been lodged in Tihar jail since March 21st. My guest this evening, Karan Verma, is an author. Desh Ratan Singh is a lawyer. Thank you very much. Sanjeev Kaushik is a political analyst, and Sanjay Hegde is a senior advocate in the case. Sanjay Hegde, I don't want you to second guess the Supreme Court. That is, hi, good evening. It's always fraught with risks and challenges. But given the fact that on 2 occasions, the Supreme Court has shown the inclination to give Mr. Kejriwal bail, in fact, even deciding on a caveat, do you think that on Thursday, Mr. Kejriwal's bail is coming?
Firstly, I am not appearing in this case. You're discussing the West Bengal case later.
I understand.
In that case, I'm appearing. Okay. I am not Mr. Kejriwal.
Absolutely.
So
yes,
therefore, I can sort of try and decode what is happening in court. Now, the Supreme Court is actually thinking institutionally. forget Mr. Kejriwal, forget all the facts of this case. If you have a major election where a major political party is incapacitated from the elections by its head being jailed for a non-violent crime, which investigation thereof can continue later, the entire process can continue after a few weeks, then why should the elections be allowed to be impacted? That is the reasoning, the inarticulate major premise upon which the Supreme Court appears to me to be proceeding. And the prosecution, the ED in this case, is opposing even that little leeway. It is when institutions allow themselves to start playing in the political game, to start voting, as it were, in the political game. Okay, we'll knock you off, we'll shut you up, and we'll see to it that we oppose bail, and we will not get that you will not come out till after the elections are over. That is when courts as an institution, which are mandated to secure the constitution and its functioning, have to think on a much higher plane. And I believe that is what is happening.
Okay, a quick counter question, and then I'll let Desh Ratan Nigam come in. Sir, if the Supreme Court does on that basis and that premise decide to give Arvind Kejriwal bail on Thursday, then Hemant Soren can argue the same. So will Hemant Soren be the next to walk out of jail on bail?
Well, let's put it this way. How often will you have a ruling party lock up its opponents on non-violent crime and say that they will not be granted bail? Then are we a free and fair election? And yes, Mr. Soren's matter is also now before the same bench, because the High Court has already ruled against granting him bail. And I suspect that if this happens in Arvind Kejriwal's case, the court might be inclined to take a similar view. Of course, there will be various arguments made on facts, but that's a separate. We'll have to see its reaction on the first day, and whether Mr. Soren's matter is listed on Thursday or Friday.
I certainly have a.
Can I just bring in Desh Ratan Nigam? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Shreya, let me tell you, we know it is a PMLA, and under the PMLA, a person is guilty proven innocent. It's the reverse jurisprudence based on French jurisprudence. And therefore, this has to be dealt with differently as ordinary criminal law. So, Mr. Kejriwal is guilty as of now. He has to prove himself innocent, one. Secondly, creating a separate class, as was argued before the court, that he cannot be treated extraordinarily so that he is above the common man, a privileged man. The concept of equality comes between similarly situated people. He is an accused, and the ED says he's the kingpin and the main conspirator. And in the previous judgment of Mr. Manish Sisodia, the Supreme Court found 338 crore of money trail, prima facie. And therefore, in this particular case, the money not being recovered is not a question, because it has been spent in Goa's election. So the recovery may not be possible because money has been spent, and they have been able to establish that trail. The ED's argument is that they have shown that trail. They have it. Thirdly, let me tell you, he is under judicial custody. Judicial custody as of now means the possibility of tampering witnesses and evidence. In the past, we have seen hundreds of phones have been destroyed, other evidence has been destroyed, and therefore he's in custody. He's under judicial custody. He's not under ED custody as of now. So, him getting out in public will again throw a big question whether he'll influence the witness or not, whether he'll destroy further evidence. So all these is a question.
Mr. Nigam, how?
Which should be and
how?
And
I'll ask you this.
Let me finish.
The Supreme Court is asking these questions. Let me counter question you here. Let me counter question you here. The Supreme Court is saying if we do decide to give him bail, then he will step out as an Aam Aadmi Party campaigner and not as the Delhi Chief Minister. He'll not go around signing files. Now, if the Supreme Court is making that very clear and is putting out conditions, what's the harm? You are saying PMLA, you are guilty until proven innocent. But the fact is that the Supreme Court itself today is asking, na, the ED, 2 साल क्यों लगाए भाई इनको arrest करने में? Why did you take 2 years to arrest him? And what are the recoveries? It's been more than 365 days. You can say money trail. पैसा तो 1 रुपया नहीं recover हुआ है ना?
Therefore, I said that so far recoveries concerned the ED's cases, the money has been used in the Goa's election campaign. So therefore, that question can be taken care of. Now, the delay in arresting him, as the investigation goes on, it was said in the court, the material comes before. His name started cropping up. The others became approver. They started giving the evidence. And therefore, this becomes very important. And, you don't need to sign any file to influence witnesses or to get the evidence destroyed, which may be there and which may still not be recovered, which may not be in the possession of the ED or the CBI. Therefore, it's a very important. You don't need any official status. You are there confined so that you do not destroy all that evidence and influence witness. You don't need to sign files. He was as such not signing files.
Mr. Nigam, do you think that the ED and the CBI and the Delhi police and the entire might of the Indian government, the mighty Indian government, you think they'll let Mr. Arvind Kejriwal alone and not keep a very, very close watch on him and not let him do anything they don't want him to do? Come on, Mr. Nigam. I'm sure when Mr. Kejriwal steps out, he will know that every step he takes and every move he makes, the government of India will be watching. I'm just going to get Karan Verma into this conversation. Karan Verma, this is election time. Look, these are arguments that have been made in the Supreme Court. This is... Boliye Sanjay ji. Okay, Sanjay ji wants to say something. Go ahead.
No. The law, even under PMLA, is not that you're guilty until proven innocent. It's only for the question of bail that there must be a prima facie satisfaction that you're innocent. The reverse burden of proof on the PMLA as a whole doesn't apply. That's too wide a reading. It's only for purposes of bail. Okay. And here we are not...
Karan Verma.
Okay.
Okay. Karan Verma, I'm just getting you into the conversation. Today, the ED's lawyers are saying heavens won't fall if Arvind Kejriwal doesn't campaign in the elections. But heavens won't fall even if he does, right?
No, Shreya, why do we want to make an exception for this person? I mean, apparently it's the Aam Aadmi, so-called Aam Aadmi, who today wants this special treatment. And what precedent would it set? Then it would set a precedent that every under-trial prisoner can claim that there is a special event in our lives. I mean, the Solicitor General argued it really well. He said, tomorrow we will have MDs of companies who say that our companies have a problem. Can we get out on this once-in-a-lifetime event? So where are we heading? I mean, is this not an affront to Article 14 also? Why should we make an exception for someone who the Delhi High Court, by the way, has said that prima facie, the material collected by ED reveals that Mr. Kejriwal conspired and was actively involved in the concealment of the proceeds of crime? Why do we want to make an exception for such a man, which the CAG says has caused a loss of 2,002 crores? Where the Supreme Court is on record saying, while denying bail to Manish Sisodia, that there is a tentative money trail of 338 crores. Why do we want him to step out? I mean, I am aghast at the fact that this is happening for real. Imagine the brutal irony of it. The court is saying, don't behave as a CM. And he continues to be a CM. I mean, the joke is actually on the common man of Delhi today. That here is a man who cannot sign documents, who's being asked by the court, don't behave like a CM. And he continues to cling on to chair. I mean, that is the absurdity of the democracy. But then with the Aam Aadmi Party, what else were we expecting?
Karan,
we were expecting anarchy.
Twist nahi karo.
We were expecting
Karan,
chaos.
don't twist this. No, don't twist this.
Yeah, sorry.
Don't twist this. The Supreme Court has said, if we give you bail, don't twist this. The Supreme Court has said, if we give, Karan, I'm saying that the Supreme Court has said, if we give you bail, then you have to ensure that you will not go signing files and behaving like the Chief Minister, that you will just behave as the star campaigner of the Aam Aadmi Party. So let's not twist this.
No, 1 second. I want to reply to this. Even as per jail manual, rule number 1349, Shreya, of the Tihar jail manual, Mr. Kejriwal is not allowed to sign documents except for a few exceptions, which which include his wakalatnamas and a few other documents. You can ask the two lawyers we have on the panel here. So as it is, he doesn't have a portfolio. He's not interested in signing documents. So it's even good for Kejriwal. He always wanted to be a neta in the first place. He never behaved like a CM. He never had a portfolio. He continues to be in jail where he cannot sign documents. So who is the joke on? The joke is on the people of Delhi. I mean, why are we trying to make exceptions for such an individual?
Okay, so exceptions and special treatment is only reserved for opposition netas who join the BJP. Should I start with the list? Why should I actually? We have someone who is speaking on behalf of the Aam Aadmi Party. Sanjeev Kaushik, respond to Karan Verma. Aam Aadmi के Chief Minister हैं अरविंद केजरीवाल, उनको स्पेशल ट्रीटमेंट क्यों दिया जाए? दिस इज एन आर्ग्यूमेंट दैट नॉट जस्ट करण वर्मा इज मेकिंग, संजीव कौशिक, लेकिन ये आर्ग्यूमेंट जो है आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने, ईडी के लॉयर ने भी बोली है कि आप किसी को, आप एक नया क्लास ऑफ पीपल नहीं बना सकते हैं, आप किसी को ये वीआईपी ट्रीटमेंट नहीं दे सकते हैं कि चीफ मिनिस्टर है, आम आदमी पार्टी का लीडर है, तो इनको बाहर जाने दो कैंपेन के लिए, फिर तो सब लोग बोलेंगे हमको भी जाने दो।
श्रेया, कोर्ट में जो कार्रवाई चल रही थी, सॉलिसिटर जनरल की दलीलें, अरविंद केजरीवाल के वकील की दलीलें और सुप्रीम कोर्ट की तरफ से जो बातें रखी जा रही थी, बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग उसमें वाकया देखने को मिल रहा था। और मुझे नहीं लगता कि वो जो दलीलें रखी जा रही थी और जो बातचीत हो रही थी, किसी भी आम आदमी को समझने के लिए उसके लिए किसी और व्यक्ति की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी कि आप इस पर प्रकाश डालें, तब हम समझ पाएंगे। सवाल ये है कि क्या कहा जा रहा था कि यदि हम पहली बार ऐसा हो नहीं रहा है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ये क्लियर बोल रहा है कि हमें कोई ये न समझाए कि हम अंतरिम बेल देने के लिए सक्षम है या नहीं है, इसलिए क्या ये पहली बार हो रहा है? क्या दलील ये भी थी कि क्या ये इतना बड़ा क्राइम है या आदतन ये क्रिमिनल है कि इनको यदि बाहर छोड़ दिया जाए तो असर पड़ेगा? और एक मुख्यमंत्री की हैसियत से नहीं, आम आदमी पार्टी के कन्वीनर की हैसियत से, स्टार प्रचारक की हैसियत से जाते हैं। और केजरीवाल साहब के वकील ने भी ये कहा कि हम कोई मुख्यमंत्री की हैसियत से कोई साइन नहीं करने जा रहे हैं। उस परिस्थिति में ये तमाम तरह की जो बातें हो रही है, यह सोचते हुए बातें हो रही है कि शायद अगले बृहस्पतिवार को या परसों केजरीवाल साहब को छोड़ दी जाएगी। तो छोड़ दी जाएगी, उस संबंध में यदि इस तरह की दलीलें दी जा रही है जो यहाँ बैठ कर के लोग दलील दे रहे हैं, तो हमें लगता है कि सॉलिसिटर जनरल के बदले में ये लोग बेहतर तरीके से दलील दे सकते हैं कि केजरीवाल को अंदर रखना ही ज़्यादा बेहतर है। देश के प्रधानमंत्री और देश में जो सरकार है, एक व्यक्ति जिसका हाथ उठा करके वो वोट मांगते हैं, वो 200-300 से ज़्यादा औरतों का बलात्कारी आदमी कब छोड़ के हिंदुस्तान से चला जाता है और उसके बाद में लुकआउट नोटिस जारी करने की बात होती है। इस पर सरकार को कोई सुधि नहीं होती है। यहाँ से सैकड़ों हजारों करोड़ रुपए लेकर लोग भाग गए, अभी तक उन लोगों के बारे में। और मजे की बात यह है कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी की प्रत्याशी जो अभी दिल्ली में चुनाव लड़ रही है, वो उन लोगों के पैरविकार में से रही हैं, नई दिल्ली से जो चुनावी प्रत्याशी हैं वो। तो ये साफ दिखाई देता है कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी किसी तरह से अरविंद केजरीवाल साहब को नहीं निकलने देना चाहती है। उनको पता है कि निकलने के बाद में दिल्ली में जो 7 सीटों पर चुनाव है या फिर आगे आने वाले दिनों में अलग अलग स्टेट में जो चुनाव है, निश्चित तौर पर एक प्रभाव तो पड़ेगा ही पड़ेगा। अब ये बहाने ढूंढे जा रहे हैं, उन बहानों को ढूंढने में एक कड़ी और आगे निकल गई। कल एलजी साहब ने जो सिफारिश की है, तो वो तमाम तरह की जुगत लगाई जा रही है। लेकिन हिंदुस्तान की जनता, दिल्ली की जनता बड़े गौर से, और एक एक कदम, एकदम बिल्कुल आपने सही कहा कि एक एक कदम पर लोगों की निगाहें हैं, चाहे वो दिल्ली पुलिस हो, चाहे कोर्ट हो, चाहे यहाँ की केंद्र की सरकार हो, चाहे वो जो दलील दी जा रही हो, वहाँ पे एक एक शब्दों पर लोगों की निगाहें। और लोग देख रहे हैं कि कोर्ट के फैसले को या किस तरह से सही दिशा में जाते हुए चीज़ को देख करके लोगों में एक बेचैनी बढ़ी है। हम फिर कह रहे हैं कि ये बेहद खतरनाक है हिंदुस्तान की राजनीति के लिए। राजनीति कीजिए, प्रतिद्वंद्विता कीजिए, अच्छी बात है, लेकिन वैमनस्यता का भाव मत पालिए कि हम निकलने नहीं देंगे आपको और अकेले चुनाव जीतेंगे। ये बेहद खतरनाक है और दिल्ली की जनता और देश की जनता इसका जवाब देगी।
Karan, I will give you 20 seconds to respond and a final question to Sanjay Hegde then. Go ahead, please, Karan.
You know, Shreya, the fact that people say that Desh ki janta jawab degi, they are undermining the intelligence of the people. The people are angry that here is a CM who is allegedly involved in a liquor scam, is in jail, is not resigning, holding on to his position, who has been reprimanded by the Delhi High Court for not attending to the MCD school textbooks, for not being there when they really needed him with regards to water woes, electricity woes, and so many other things. So people, if anything, are very angry with this man who has left them high and dry, and it's the courts who have not given him relief. It's not the BJP, it's not ED, it's the courts, and people understand it loud and clear.
Karan, we all also need to understand and remember that the Supreme Court of this country has thrown out petitions that have challenged Arvind Kejriwal continuing as the Chief Minister, because there is nothing in the Constitution that says that he cannot continue as Chief Minister till convicted. So nothing unconstitutional is happening here. Sanjay Hegde, my last question is to you, and I just...
There's something called morality. I agree it's not unconstitutional, but there's something called morality, I would say that. You can't sign documents.
Morality is
a
two-way street.
On morality basis, at least you should resign. You used to demand the same. Fine, you can call that, but at least he should exercise his morality and then preach to others. He came into politics to change the system, but look how low he stooped today.
Morality is a two-way street. So
I don't hold a brief for him.
Grounds,
I have been very hard on
Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh's son shouldn't have been given a ticket by the BJP. Absolutely, I understand that, but I am saying the BJP is no one to point to morality and ask a chief minister, chief minister to step down. बोलिए बोलिए जल्दी से बोलिए संजीव कौशिक जी, बहुत टाइम नहीं है मेरे पास, मेरे को मिस्टर हेगड़े के पास एक सवाल के लिए जाना है, बोलिए.
As a citizen I can ask him. I don't know about BJP.
नहीं दे पाएंगे, उस पे जवाब नहीं दे पाएंगे. मैंने कहा कि इन लोगों को हक ही नहीं, इन लोगों को हक ही नहीं है मॉरलिटी पे बात करने के लिए. आपने जो सवाल पूछा, भारतीय जनता पार्टी के पास कोई जवाब नहीं है इसका. ये लोग किसी भी तरह से इस चुनाव को जीतने की होड़ में ये सारे नैतिक और अनैतिक जितने भी ध्वस्त हैं मानदंड सबको ध्वस्त करते चले जा रहे हैं. मैंने कहा कि यही हम भी रहेंगे यहीं पे और आप भी रहेंगे. आने वाले दिनों में आप देखेंगे कि इसका व्यापक असर कैसे पड़ता है और लोग कैसे इसको फैसले को देखते हैं.
ठीक है. Mr. Hegde, my last question to you, we'll just look back to 24 hours ago and the letter that the LG has written to the Ministry of Home asking for an NIA probe into Mr. Kejriwal's links with Khalistani terrorists. In your view, in your studied view, was that letter written to influence the court's decision today? The timing was very peculiar, I thought.
Of course, timing was very peculiar, and I don't think courts get influenced by this. In fact, sometimes courts might even look at it as a challenge. But arrow has been fired to say that, look, even if you get bail here, we reserve the right to pick you up. And that you see that today there is not too much coverage. I think they've realized that that has backfired. But I have one brief point to make. All this thing about the jail manual, signing this, that, and the other. We are governed by the Constitution of India, and no jail manual can overpower the Constitution of India.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Sanjay Hegde, for joining us. Sanjeev Kaushik, thank you very much. Desh Ratan Nigam, always good to have you on the show, out of time. And Karan Verma, thank you for joining us as well. Good night, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Have a good